Probably one of the biggest issue that I've seen is that developers don't know.
What's one thing that you're really excited for in 2026? How do you explain Magic Block to them? How do you look at AI from Magic Block perspective?
We invite all our developers to start with a mobile first approach. So we already have a game on the App Store and we're coming out soon. It will be on Seeker in the next.
All right. GM. I am joined by a good friend, Andrea, who I'm rocking my Magic Block hat.
Oh,
Hopefully
let's go.
Well, yeah, man. Hopefully this means I'm part of the team. And, this is my employee, my first merch as an employee.
Welcome back.
How are you, man?
Yeah, amazing. Great to be here. How are you doing?
Good, man. Dubai, I saw you working the room. I saw the magic in real time. So it was really, really cool. And I think that the biggest thing is, maybe you give us like also a little Magic Block Dubai recap. For me, was all the developers that were there that were building. I think that was the coolest part of my trip, of seeing everybody wanting to talk about gaming, meeting some really cool people there. Also some existing friends that are also in the Web3 gaming space, building on Solana. And I think like those are the things that excite me, because for me, it's what the future looks like, not just the present. I think good games take a long time to build. Indie games that are truly going to maybe capitalize the market take time, right? It's a lot of iteration, and I saw those kind of things. And I've been talking to a lot of the guys from the house and listening to them on like, hey, what is it that kind of like they're looking forward to? But Andrea, give us that like maybe 30 seconds to 60 seconds. What that hacker house was? What did you guys do to get to that hacker house? And what was the thought process to get to the hacker house? What's the outcome now?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, when Gabriel and I started in the ecosystem, we received amazing support from a bunch of Solana Foundation folks, but we pretty much had to figure it out ourselves. We had to raise funding, we had to create a pitch, we had to build the product, we had to do everything, right? And so our goal was really how we can speed run this learning curve for all the developers that are out there. And so we, with the support of Solana Foundation, we put together these hacker house, which is how we got started in the ecosystem in the first place. And we brought there a bunch of developers that we handpicked. So we ran a selection process. There were 160 applicants, and then a few startups were able to participate into the program. But then we also opened it up to other developers at the end of the event. And the goal was really to give accelerated crash course on how to run a startup. Anything from pitching to going to market, marketing, how to craft a narrative, how to think about fundraising, what are the fundraising options, right? There's not only VC money out there. So really from zero to hero with a bit of our experience, and we brought in also external founders and hosts. And so hopefully we were able to really accelerate the learning curve for the startups that were there. And you came as well. So you tell me, how the vibes were.
Yeah, look, man, I think like for me, one of the biggest things I took back, it's, we need to have a lot more of these, and we need to figure out how to host more of this, especially in our gaming niche that we're in, right? Because not only are we in a niche, we are in like a niche within the niche. And so, Web3 is one of those things where like, how do we accelerate it? Because we understand what blockchain could do for a gaming experience. We understand that the most biggest games in Web2 right now, if they had a marketplace that's powered by blockchain, would probably solve 99% of their issues. The biggest games. And so here we are, we know what we can do. It's now, hey, how do we get the right tools to the right people? How do we make them or help them understand through the roadblocks that they face? And again, like set them up for success, because that's the biggest thing. How do we set people up for success? So yeah, I've been really kind of excited to just kind of keep seeing that iteration, but also understanding the future of how do we host these, where do we host these, right, is another thing. maybe give us like a 60 seconds for those that are like conversations that you have with Web 2 developers that are coming to you. How do you explain Magic Block to them? For those that are curious and like trying to figure out like what is Magic Block without you, already being in the system, what is the best way you explain it to them?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because we had Web2 founders that were not only new to Solana, but they were new to crypto. So they never built on any blockchain at all. So that we were essentially the entry point for them to figure out what's possible. And effectively, what MagicBlock does is we provide an engine, we call it, to get the same performance that you would get with a traditional server while building with your Web2 stack, but without the need for server or using any centralized party. So you can just build on Solana, and then you can accelerate, so to speak, the logic of your game to achieve better performance, so that there's no distinction for users in terms of UX or in terms of latency, which is effectively when your game looks laggy, right? So at the very, very basic level, that's what we do. We provide more performance, cheaper transaction, but without creating a separate network that competes with Solana. Instead, we compete with traditional server and the traditional multiplayer gaming stack. And so that's really the way that we explain it to these people, and we explain it also to consumers that are curious about what we do. Obviously, we are a technical product, so our users are developers, but then our users are consumers, are people that are using application, and they deserve a better UX. And especially when it comes to gaming, I think there's been a bunch of theses around why Web3 with gaming, and I'm kind of very opinionated on this. We can get into it, but I think for the kind of games that make sense to build on a blockchain, then of course the UX has to be perfect. Like, they have to have an amazing, delightful UX. And I think in general in crypto, things are getting better now. With there are a lot of embedded wallets, Privy. There's a lot of improvements at each level of the stack, also from a developer perspective. And so we're just gonna keep seeing better and better apps from a UX perspective, and also it's gonna get easier to build them. Recently with AI, like the barrier to access and to actually build something is decreasing at a breathtaking speed, right? So it's really amazing to see that those barriers are really crashing down.
Yeah, like you mentioned there, the UI UX stuff. I think it's probably one of the biggest things, because we need to make sure that we're speaking the gamer language, right? When you go on Steam, PlayStation, Epic, all these things, how do they represent themselves? How easy is it to hit play, download, play, get in the game, right? That experience that a gamer has known for years, right? And how do we make sure that experience stays the same versus the experience that you have with Web3? And at the end of the day, it's technology, right? Technology is under the hood. Technology is something that it's never in the history of gaming been something like, oh my God, like you got to go check out, in computers, yes, but not to the point that you're actually having a technical conversation on why the game makes sense to play. And so I think that it's adapting to that same language almost, and making sure it's easier for the consumer, because at the end of the day, that's who these game developers are looking to build on. I'll ask you there real quick. What do you think is still very much the issue for game developers building in blockchain? Like, what is the most common thing that you're still seeing, and what is the challenge that you see down the road? You mentioned you have some opinions there, but what is the opinion that you have already, like going into this year, of like there's these challenges that they're facing, but the challenges that you see at the end of the year are a lot larger or a lot smaller?
I think probably one of the biggest issue that I've seen is that developers don't know their users well enough. And what I mean by that is that they end up building maybe a fully on-chain game, which is such this amazing technology, is verifiable, is fully decentralized, has no server, super low latency, but then they market it to traditional users, which don't really understand the space or what are the differences compared to a traditional game, or vice versa. There are traditional games or games that use a normal stack that incorporate maybe crypto just for marginal aspects, important ones, but marginal payments, for example, and they market that game to crypto users, which instead are maybe here because they want to trade, right? So this disconnection between the game and the product and who is marketed to, I think is probably one of the biggest issues that I've seen. And quite frankly, a lot of the studios that have gone bust over the last years, I think it's primarily because they couldn't get enough players, because the players that they were trying to market it to didn't care, right? So yeah, I think there's obviously it's easier said than done, but for the developers that are taking a more crypto native approach, they should definitely talk more to the crypto users and understand what they like and market the game to those users. And typically these are people that have a higher purchasing power, that love trading or love some financialized elements within the game. And it's fine, build a game that appeal to those users. And if instead you're building a game that doesn't incorporate a deep on-chain economy or doesn't even have assets that you can trade around, that's totally fine. But then market that game towards a traditional player crowd, right? Be on Steam, be on the other distribution channel. Don't talk about NFT all the time because those other users don't care. So you really have to understand your users, understand your audience, and who you market your product to. And then the last thing that I'd say on this is I believe on Solana there's an incredible opportunity to build for the users that are already here through Seeker, through a mobile-first Solana native distribution channel, which already has more than 100,000 devices. And now with the airdrop, they managed to reactivate those users, and there's a lot of momentum. You can get a lot of support. The whole ecosystem totally will retweet your game. So these are all opportunities that are here right now, and that developers should absolutely leverage.
And I think the one part, Andrea, you missed on that whole thing is that it costs $0 to get on the Seeker and
Absolutely.
get some of the social support that you get. I mean, talk about user there, like the cost. It's insane. I'll go further there. Yeah.
If you're trying to market a game on, if you're building a mobile game and you're trying to be on iOS and Play Store, you're essentially competing with millions of other apps and millions of other entertaining experiences, right? So you really can get better than this, where you have users that have an incredibly high purchasing power, that are there to find out about the newest cool app. You can get free marketing support. It really doesn't get any better than this in terms of go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, it truly is, and I think it's a cheat code that I don't think many people have understood. I was talking to CFL, Maddle, a couple of the games in the past couple weeks, and DAU wise, it's 15 and 20,000 DAU, and that is wild, yes, there is an airdrop involved. We get it, but that is the perfect time to test a product that does have a financial instrument like tokens, like marketplaces. That is the perfect people that you want. Those are the people you want to break your system, if anything, to know, hey, this thing works. So I think definitely the opportunity there with Seeker is huge. And I think it will be huge forever. I mean, I think we're on the second Solana phone, and I think this phone right now is definitely the breakthrough that we're seeing from the first one on the iterations that it needed to do to be more competitive. And I think cost, speed, look, features, all those things that, the Soulflare wallet, like we were mentioning, getting these things that are kind of on the back end are finally starting to get a lot easier for the user, that anybody in Web 2 can really pick up the phone and say, okay, I kind of understand it a little bit more than putting a Phantom wallet or a Soulflare wallet on my Android or Apple phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And people also forget that the Solana mobile stack is open source. So it's not just constrained to Seeker. It can get adoption and it will be adopted by other Android. Effectively, any Android device could run it. And so the dApp store is really the key here. Once you're there, and to your point, there's no fee for developers, which is amazing. Once your app is there, and the Solana mobile team will keep pushing it to get more adoption and will get installed on other devices, then your distribution and your growth funnel just become bigger and bigger naturally because of the momentum and the push of the ecosystem, as opposed to something that only you have to, to work on.
Have you guys at Magic Block been now kind of having a little bit of a shift in focus as well to go after mobile since the Seeker and since we're seeing the adoption play?
Yeah, absolutely. We invite all our developers to start with a mobile first approach. All the tools that we develop have a mobile integration. I mean, we were the one to actually provide the Solana Unity SDK support for Saga, so the previous phone, and that same stack is working now on Seeker. And MagicBlock as a network provide those same fast, cheap transaction, verifiable randomness, even privacy now. And those same things works on a mobile setting because we're client agnostic, so you can build your game for any platform. But we're always telling developers, start with a mobile first approach. And we even have a small internal team, which is building games specifically. So we already have a game on the dApp store, and we're coming out soon with another pretty cool experience, which is sort of a mix between money-based game that play with distribution of value. So we don't really want to create an unsustainable economy, but the idea is that you attract players to put some money into the game, and then you redistribute those value to the more skilled player, essentially, and the game progresses in season. I can't share too much about it, but that's something that we're actively working on, and it will be on Seeker in the next few weeks. So absolutely, we have like our whole team is pushing on this mobile first approach because it just makes sense, right? It just makes sense to try to go where the users are. And right now, the Solana mobile team is doing an amazing job at attracting users and using the unique incentives that crypto has for keeping those users engaged and generating momentum and generating attention. So it's just there for you to leverage, really.
Yeah, and I think that like you're mentioning a lot about the Seeker there and the opportunity, but I think the opportunity is even bigger. If you go to the Play Store, there's probably less than 10 games right now on the Seeker phone, right? And so like talk about being able to compete with 10 games, this isn't competing with 20,000 games on Steam or Epic, right? Or even the App Store. You're talking about a pool less than the fingers I have on my hands, and that is just massive. Like the opportunity there is just so big that I've been going around knocking the door at every Solana game, and I'm like, this mobile opportunity, guys, like less than 10 games on there, guys. Let's figure out a way to definitely capture users. Everybody, to me, it was funny because when Telegram games came out, everybody wanted to make a Telegram game. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. Like people jumping on. But here we go. We got a Seeker. And I'm like, guys, this is the opportunity you're supposed to jump on. Like, this is the one that you're actually supposed to stop what you're doing and say, okay, how do we build something for it? Since the distribution is going to be there, since the mechanics behind mobile are to attract users, to bring developers, it's going to be friendly for both. Like this is the opportunity. So it's funny you're saying that too. And I'm like, man, there's a bigger opportunity too.
100%. And again, there's nothing wrong about going on Steam for your distribution, but you just have to pay attention to who your users are. If you're targeting your game towards a traditional gamer crowd, be on Steam and just hide the crypto element as much as possible. For them, it just have to be a game that they enjoy playing. Crypto has to completely disappear. If your game is targeted towards users that are already here right now on Solana, then you can put crypto in the front. Like it's totally fine they already have Phantom, they already use Soulflare, so it's totally fine to connect with those wallets. The seed vault, they know what the seed vault is. Like, you can use the language, you can build a UX that makes sense for those type of users. But if you put that same UX in the hand of the other type of users, of course they're gonna churn, right? They're not gonna even try the game because they don't even get there. With that said, I'm as a gamer and as a crypto native, I think the crypto native or crypto first path is such an underrated opportunity. Because if you think also in terms of revenue, ultimately, if you are a developer building a game, you have to think in terms of you're building a business, right? And I think this is potentially another problem, especially for indie devs. Indie devs love the game for the craft, right? It's about building something cool and putting together all these pieces, the code, the art, the UX, the gameplay. And I get it, but ultimately you're building a business. So you have to think also in terms of revenue and expected revenue that are going to generate. And I think the opportunity on Solana, especially given that there's so many consumers, is that, if you get 10,000 players that spend one Sol on your game, you generated $1 million. And there's nobody that would spend that amount of money on Steam or on iOS store, right? So like, it doesn't really take that much, if you think about it, to get to $1 million in revenue. You just have to get 10,000 users to spend one Sol on your game. It doesn't look that hard if you put it that way, right? It's totally achievable. So I think again, I'm really pushing on Seekerbot because it just makes rational sense, and also in terms of business opportunity for developers to be there.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the things that I'm truly excited for 2026, and really actually just in general, like as we develop a mobile phone, and I think like, you have to go back to the ethos of Web3 and like understand what Web3 was all about, especially with payment rails and payment systems and everything that we're very much going after in the TradFi space and in the traditional markets. And you look at like around the world, knowing that the mobile phone is, used by a lot of most users, and then gaming on mobile is probably just huge. And then you understand the ethos, and then you look at like countries like in South America, Asia, and that like $10 can change somebody's life, right? And it's as little as $10. I know that from being South American and going down to South America and living down there, that $10 can change a lot of people's lives. And here you have games, and you have phones and all the stuff that could possibly get to their hands, and not only change your life, but at the same time get the user that could be a forever user into what you're building. And I think that's the other thing. What's that user end journey look like for that user? And I think, we all know money does some great things here in the space, especially for what this overall demographics and atmosphere that we have. So I think it's really, really cool. Andrea, like talking as a game dev here, what's the like a typical dev now when they're evaluating Magic Block? What is it that they're like kind of really trying to figure out what they stop worrying and what they should worry about? Like, talk to me in a technical standpoint, maybe of like, what are your common things right now that, are very much now out of the box, they get it, cool, but still very much a hurdle?
I think for, again, it depends on the type of developer. For developers that are already on Solana, is probably coming up with something that makes sense, that is cohesive enough across the stack. But typically those developers are very excited about the tools that we provide. Magic Block allow developers to build on Solana with the same exact tools that they are used to, from on-chain framework to the SDKs, and then they add an instruction into their existing program to delegate. We call it delegation, some state into our engine, right, in the Magic Block engine. And so those transactions can go faster or can be run for free. If you're moving a character around, for example, you don't want to pay priority fee for transaction, that Magic Block makes a lot of sense for you. this concept really clicked for developers that are already on Solana. I'd say probably one of the biggest hurdles is how we onboard new developers from other ecosystems that are not maybe so familiar with Rust or with Solana in the first place. And so for them, we noticed that it's a bit overwhelming to understand about, okay, I have to build a smart contract, and I have to pick a framework, and then I have to integrate the client, and then I have to integrate MatchBlock, and then there's a lot of moving pieces. But I think especially with the advent of generative coding, I think the barriers will be reduced. And right now we're seeing a lot of promising projects that are being built in like a very, very short amount of time. To try to assess how easy it is to build on us, we also do periodic internal hackathons. We just did a hackathon, like our whole team did a 3-day sprint. It was right before Christmas to try to gauge how easy it is to build on Solana with our stack, right? And so all the engineers just came together and like ultimately we presented internally. I think we also posted it about the project that came out from that hackathon on X. And every time that we do this, it's just for us a way to get the tooling better and to reduce the friction, reduce the barrier for someone that is an outsider, doesn't necessarily know how Solana works or MagicBlock works, to get onboarded in the ecosystem that in a much easier way. And then one other thing that we're very focused on, this year, even last year, but especially this year, we're putting more resources behind it, is workshops. And we're working very closely with all the super teams, but even beyond the super teams, we're starting to work with developer focus organization that basically do education and workshops for developers that maybe are Rust developers, but they never build on Solana. They don't know, they never build in web, in crypto even. And so helping those developers with those skills come to the ecosystem and build an amazing experience, with distribution channels that we talk about. So that's something that we're very invested in, both in terms of having, amazing DevRels, and also just in terms of reaching out to these folks and sponsoring or organizing these workshops and crash courses.
Yeah, it's cool to hear and great to hear it. And like one thing that I gotta ask you now is like, how does that evolve? But I'll ask you the question of how does that evolve in a second. Of with AI here today, we're seeing Claude we're seeing, everybody, Gemini. I mean, I don't know if the past 48 hours I've been seeing the recreations of Grand Theft Auto in real time, and I thought that was insane. Yeah, that's right. Mental. And so the question now comes back to you is, how do you evolve knowing where AI is today? And will it speed up the process of building games on chain? What do we need to understand about AI and gaming? What are the basics there? But what are also like going to be the complications that we should already be looking at on how to solve with AI being built? Is it AI too upfront and not too back end? That's the big common thing, right? Like these websites are getting done, but then there's no back end to it, right? So we know code there and all that stuff is still very much a little bit far behind. But Claude this past couple of weeks has been kind of, the next kind of closest to AGI, as people are saying. So what are your thoughts of, hey, how do we evolve with AI? What are we looking at AI? How do you look at AI from MagicBlock perspective as well?
So look, this is one of those transformative technologies that is only going to get better. So like society at large will have to adapt it, let alone game development. But specifically for game dev and for people that are looking to create experiences, there's never been a better time to build. Really, it's so easy, and like it gets easier and easier to even as a solo developer, really, to just create an amazing experience. One of the things that will always be required, I think, is taste and human judgment if you are creating, especially for game developers, given that games are such a multifaceted experience. It involves so many things on the back end, multiplayer side. You have to know about how to really give users an amazing networking stack so that the latency doesn't suck, but then the visuals have to be pleasant, and then the gameplay has to be interesting enough. If you have an on-chain economy or an economy, let alone on-chain, you basically have to be an economist, right? Otherwise, Roblox have dozens of PhD and economists that try to balance the economy out, right? And so now those same resources are available to a solo dev potentially that is trying to balance out his economy but doesn't know anything about economics, right? So this is an incredible opportunity, and especially for games that again put together so many disciplines, from the visual arts to the low-level programming. AI is an incredible tool that will allow, I think, solo developers or really small team to completely outcompete some of the teams that are maybe not completely embracing it. But it will always require taste and like a personal involvement into the project, because you are not really just doing something for for the money or for building a business, as I put it before, but you're also doing something because you really understand your users, and maybe you're a gamer yourself, and most game developers are gamer themselves. And if you put together these two sort of lenses, then that's where magic happens. The best games are the ones that are created not by the mercenaries, but by the thought leaders within the gaming industry that really have taste and have an amazing passion for video games, and they are extremely knowledgeable about the catalogs and the history of gaming, and they really understand how to meet the demand of users. So yeah, I think it's very hard actually to predict the speed at which things are evolving, just because there's new stuff coming out every week basically. But yeah, just an incredible time to be a builder, really.
Yeah, no, I definitely an incredible time. And I think like one thing I would say that I am excited for is, the opportunity for ideas really to get past ideas, right? The idea that these ideas that a lot of people have thought about games, and maybe start playing around with AI to help put it a little bit more formation, give it a little bit more, some sort of design to what that would look like, and possibly even begin what that building experience would look like. I think that AI will help bring a lot more apps. I think there was a crazy stat the other day on like the creation of apps on the Apple Store over the past 5 years, and then over the past like 5 weeks, it was like skyrocketed, and it's like crazy to see. And it is something that I think like in the past, the cost to build certain things were too much. Now you could cater to niche markets even further that were kind of neglected because of cost, and I think there's an opportunity there as well.
Yeah, I agree, but that's potentially also an issue because the fact that it's so easy to create apps will mean that there will be a lot of slop and a lot of really bad games as well, which is why, going back to what I was saying before, I think why it's so important for developers to have a taste and to really know what they're building. And I think that would be also a key differentiator going forward. Like, people will see all these available experiences for them to spend their time on, and they will choose the one that will be on higher quality, or will give them a sense of whatever they're looking for when playing the game. And if the app stores are just flooded with low quality games, I think your way to really distinguish yourself is to go on the complete opposite side of the spectrum and really push for incredible quality and incredible experience for your users.
Totally. I know massive things are coming up. You mentioned your consensus APAC. You mentioned a couple of things that you guys are planning in the road work. Miami got announced yesterday for Solana Accelerate. Will you be coming down to the States?
I hope so. I hope so. I'll have to see my schedule, but I love Miami. I've been there at the port, and there's a great Solana community there. So I'd love to come back if I can.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, it's nice and sunny today. We don't have to worry about anything. So we're waiting for you. There's a great Solana community here, and I'm sure we could do some things around gaming as well in Miami. That would be fun, and maybe even do some sort of a little hacker house, kind of how you guys recreated in Dubai, down here in Miami. There's definitely an opportunity there. Look, Matt, I think coming year, lots of really cool things that we talked about, a lot of cool things that are going to be happening. What's one thing that you're really excited for in 2026?
Oh man, that's a curveball. One thing, I'd say, well, I'm looking forward to see the renaissance of gaming on Solana with AI tools, like as a broader team. I've seen that right now there's a bit more hype around the metaverse, now that people have seen that you can actually recreate these digital environments so easily with AI. So I'm looking forward to see more and more of that trend continuing. And then on the Magic Block side, I'm looking forward for a consolidation in the use cases that we're serving right now. We have a lot on our plates, and we're almost struggling to keep up with all the different use cases. So I'm looking to spend more energy on perhaps fewer use cases that really works, but at the same time leave the door for experimentation open. And as I said, do more of the workshops, do more of the hacker houses, do more of the stuff that helps the indie devs and the solo devs emerge and launch a company on top of Solana and on top of MagicBlock.
Totally. I too many things to name for 2026, but I think a couple of things that really bring excitement. And for me, I'll tell you, as you're building, to see you guys keep growing, to see you guys have the success, really, really excited for it. And I think Solana itself, to see the Solana success that we're having right now, seeing everybody launch on Solana, attracting so many users, institutions, I mean, you name it. I mean, it's all being launched on Solana. To see tokens on Coinbase now, it's like, wow, we're finally getting through these humps that were tough. And I think as this evolves, the financial market evolves, crypto becomes more mainstream. I think we've been very early, but I think the word early is no longer going to be used soon, and we're going to enter the next phase of what Web3 gaming should look like, and I'm really, really excited for it as well. So, Andrea, good luck, have fun out in APAC. I won't be there, so enjoy, but we will be waiting for you in Miami.
Hopefully see each other in Miami.
Yeah, it will be Cinco de Mayo out here, so get ready. Lots of partying. Consensus is happening the same days as well. So we will see you. We'll be waiting for you. Get your team to tell your team to talk to my team so we could do something together.
We love that.
But thank you again, man. Appreciate your time and really, really excited for 2026.
Yeah, always a pleasure to come on the show. Thanks for having us.